Yo cuando me sé la ley del hielo. No, nos reiniciaron desde el inicio, weón. Está interesante esta madre, ¿eh? ¿Cuántos finales hemos sacado? ¿2?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
Perfecto.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Nos mandaron con Diosito, nos metieron a un backroom, nos suicidamos, no, fueron 3 porque nos suicidamos.
Hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ay, güey. No, me da miedo, Tilín. Me da miedo. A ver, necesito un spoiler, por favor. Hay screamers en este juego. Hay screamers. Porque me da mello. Me da mello. Creo que hay un coche. Necesito que me digan si sí o sí, ¿no?
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy.
Sí, estoy loco.
All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Sliding doors closed automatically behind him wherever he went. And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream.
Es un sueño.
What a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an
Muchas
explanation.
gracias.
His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared.
Oh.
It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up.
Uy, qué bonito,
How was he
güey.
remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head?
Sí, ¿por qué ese güey nos está hablando?
And thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself.
Wake up.
I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be
Wake up.
over.
¿Y ese fanfic?
Let me go back to my job.
Ese fanfic del Stanley y el narrador. Stanley y narrador.
I want my apartment,
Kidnap.
and my wife, and my
Con
job.
categoría de kidnapping.
All I want is my life exactly the way it's
Ay,
always
Netorare
been.
porque está casado.
My life is normal. I am normal.
Ya vi.
Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Y despertamos y seguimos. ¡Wow! Funcionó
Stanley began
perfectamente.
screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Ah.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Ah. Nos cambian.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She
Es de lo más
arose, got
parecido a
dressed,
describen en todo el
gathered her
juego.
belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town
No
talking and screaming
manches.
to himself, and then collapsed dead on the
Se murió
sidewalk.
Stanley.
And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man.
No,
He was
Stanley, te
obviously
moriste.
crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what
No
isn't.
mames.
It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day.
Dice a la
Very
verga el muerto,
important
nos
people
vamos.
Whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Se volteó y corrió. Gracias, Mariela. Gracias. No te hubieras molestado, mamá huevo. Estuvo chido, bro. Estuvo chido. Te electrocutaste, Pedrito. A ver, lo vamos a dejar aquí. Qué rápido sacas final. ¿Por qué? O sea, usualmente tomaría mucho tiempo. A ver, pues vamos a despedir el video antes. Aquí lo vamos a dejar por hoy. Otro día le seguimos. Espero, esta vez en el siguiente episodio lo vamos a hacer bien. O sea, no le vamos a llevar la contraria. ¿De acuerdo? Que alguien me explique la parte del micrófono porque me dio a entender que tenía que hablar en mi micrófono. Suscríbanse, like, campanita, como dice el bananía. Sí, sí, como dice la chaviza, suscríbete, dale like.